Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Masters of the Universe Classics, Snake Face. That's right, the ranks of the Snake Men continue to grow. Snake Face here is the gorgon-like member of that evil team, and one with a very cool design that lends itself very well to the classic style. Snakeface comes in the same style Classics blister card packaging that we've seen with each of the figures so far. The front of the blister includes that Snake Men logo sticker. The back of the packaging gives us a look at other Classics figures in the line, as well as a brand new bio for Snakeface. So let's go ahead and take a look at this guy outside of the packaging. One thing I've always liked about Snakeface was his color scheme. His outfit is a combination of purple, greens, and black, while his skin tone is a nice gray with some really great green dry brushing. The paint apps are all nicely detailed, with a great combination of light green, dark green, and metallic green used to bring out all of the details of his helmet, belt, and boots. And that brings us to the sculpt of this figure, which also has a lot of great detailing. The upper body here uses the whiplash buck, so you can see that it's scaled all over his torso and even onto his shoulders. His forearms have these really cool little snakes sculpted on that wrap all the way around his arms up to his elbows. And then there's his face, which feature wide open and piercing yellow and red eyes. It's quite a frightening look, but even creepier is his alternate head once we swap that on. Alright you guys, we're going to go and take a closer look at Snakeface here, because there's a lot of different things going on as far as the interchangeability and display options go. But first, let's go ahead and do an articulation rundown. So just like all the figures, you can rotate the head left and right, it slightly moves up and down. You got the nice ball jointed shoulders there, so you can roll them around, move them up and down. You got the bicep twist, you got the elbow bend. Then there's those new wrists that he has that have the little snakes sculpted to them, which are really cool, and you can see how the snakes kind of go up on the bicep, but that doesn't get in the way of the articulation whatsoever. You can see that we can still move the elbow forward and backward, and the snakes still move fine. It kind of rubs a little bit, but it's not rubbing hard, so it shouldn't scratch paint or anything like that. It's designed in a way so that all the articulation still works fine, even though we got that added detail of the snakes, which is really cool. And then you got the standard wrist swivel there. You do have the torso cut, the hinge joint there. You can swivel them at the waist. The loincloth piece is softer, and you can see it's just kind of got that flap down there. So you can move the legs outwards. You can sit them down. You can bend the knees. The ankles are the old ones. They do have the peg showing there, but the joints are pretty tight. They're not overly loose on this guy, which is really nice. You just got the standard ankle movement there. So there's your articulation. Now the armor that he's wearing comes off just like all of the other armor pieces. You can just pop it off via the little pegs right there, and he's scaled all the way across underneath because he actually utilizes that whiplash upper body, which is really cool. So he's got the scales all across his back, all along his chest, up onto the shoulders there. So, the cool thing about Snakeface, of course, is his action feature, which is going to pop out all those other snakes. Now, if you guys had the vintage toy, if you've ever seen it, you ever played with it, the way it worked is there was a little knob on the back that made the snakes shoot out of his eyes and his mouth, and then he also had little snakes that folded down out of his armor. Of course, there's no action features in the Classics line, so the way that this works is he's got pop-off parts. So, the first thing, of course, is the head. We can just pop the head off, and in its place, we can pop on the new head that have all the snakes hanging out of it. Now, here's one neat little detail that Mattel put on here. You can see the back of the head that doesn't have the snakes popping out have 4 little snake tails coming off the back of his head. The head that does have the snakes popping out do not have little snake tails coming out of the back, almost as if they've gone through his head and are coming out the other side, which is kind of creepy. The only weird thing is how they're green on this head, and then of course they're red when they're sticking out. But otherwise, that's kind of a neat little detail there. So let's go ahead and get this head popped on in place. Now, like I said on that vintage toy, he also had the armor parts that folded down. On this one instead, you can just remove the little front parts there. There's just little pegs. So these are hard plastic pieces on the softer armor. They just kind of pop off. We can remove all that. And then in the place of those, we have these little red plastic snakes. Now these are very small. They are a little flexible. They just have little knobs at the end. And they are not really the easiest things to plug in. They're not overly hard, but since the armor is soft, it is going to kind of bend around a little bit. It might actually be easier to do like what I did here, unhinge it on the side, and that way you can kind of get your finger in there, under there to pop them in place. And then we can just refasten the armor here. And now we have Snake Face with all of the snakes jutting out of him there, which is kind of cool. The difference, of course, is that these are red on the armor, where on the vintage figure they were green. But otherwise, I think this is a really neat way to pull off this action feature, and it looks really creepy.
So one other thing about Snake Face, he rattles. That's not something I was expecting, and don't recall that ever being brought up before, but sure enough, when you shake him, there's a loud rattle coming from inside his torso. The vintage figure didn't do this, at least mine doesn't, but this new version of Snake Face sure does, and it's even louder than Rattler's. So aside from all the snakes and the extra head, Snake Face also includes 2 accessories. Straight from his vintage figure comes his own personal shield. The shield actually features less paint apps than the rest of the figure, being primarily just made of this light green, with the only other color being the gold orb in the center. Just like all of the other shields in this line, it just clips right onto either one of his wrists. Then just like all the other Snake Men, Snake Face also includes his very own snake staff, painted with that nice 2-tone green paint job. Alright guys, it's comparison time! Here's Snake Face standing alongside his vintage counterpart. You can see this is mostly the style he's based upon, with some great improvements to the overall sculpt. And here he is alongside the 2000X Staction, which featured design that was a little different from the vintage and this new version. Snake Face is one of those figures that turned out really great. Between his excellent paint job and sculpt, the multiple display options with all of those snakes, and all the other accessories he comes with, I think Snake Face definitely ranks as one of the truly awesome figures to come out of the Classics toy line. Snake Face here goes on sale on April 15th, 2013 on MattyCollector.com and is part of the Eternia Collectors Club subscription. Until next time.